What's up, everybody? Welcome to Fantasy Sports Now. We got the injury report as of 5/18. Got a lot of names to get through, so we're just going to jump right into the content like we always do. Starting with the biggest name out there, the biggest name possible, Mike Trout, rounding second, going to third. Comes up lame with this calf strain. He looked very visibly upset, angry, frustrated, what if you will. It seems inevitable that this is probably going to be an IL injury where he's going to be out for at least probably the minimum, 10 games, if you will. Not great news for the Angels, who have had injury problems and really need to get it together. They're getting paid all this cash, and just like the wins are not happening. So, really bad news for the Angels, bad news for all fantasy fans out there. Better news, I suppose, for fantasy. Strasburg is finally throwing again. He's gotten up to about 60 pitches here. They're thinking that he could potentially pitch on Friday against the Orioles, which would be really a really good start coming right out of the gate. Don't expect him to really pitch that far into that game if he does. Personally, I suspect to see him next week, but we'll see what happens here. Either way, this is good news. Do I expect Strasburg to continue to stay healthy throughout the rest of the year? No. But if you have him, it's about time that he comes back, and here he is. Bigger news here, horrible news really for the Dodgers, who've really been struggling offensively. Bellinger comes out of that lineup, and all of a sudden the Dodgers offense looks human again. Now you're going to lose Corey Seager for at least 4 to 5 weeks with a fractured right hand. It's going to take him even longer to kind of get that power back. We always talk about wrists, we talk about hands. You always lose power after you come back, and that's what's going to happen here. So unfortunately for the Dodgers, now they're going to be out Bellinger and Seager. I guess the good news is that they'll come back generally at the right time at the same time, which all of this would be fine. But the Giants are playing so well that they're going to be competitive, I feel like, at the end of the year. The Dodgers have got to get this together, and breaking hands is really not the way to get it together. So horrible news for the Dodgers there. And it doesn't really get much better for the teams at the top here. The Mets have back-to-back hamstring injuries, and Jeff McNeil and Michael Conforto here are kind of going back and forth. Both hurt hamstrings, both going on the DL. Unfortunately, Conforto hasn't been outstanding, but he is such a staple in that lineup, and he's so good. And losing him is going to be, heart of the lineup kind of guy. And I feel like he's had these injuries before, which is never fun. And it is what it is here. And Jeff McNeil is the same way. Hopefully, they can be on there for the minimum because you just saw as well Kevin Pilar. I have him on here, but not next. When we get to Kevin Pilar, he got plunked in the face, so he's going to be out as well. So not only are you losing Conforto, you're losing McNeil, you're also probably going to lose Pilar, basically all in the same day. So the Mets outfield is going to be a little bit of a mess, unfortunately for them, and that's really going to hurt them. Moving on, you saw already a little bit here. Madison Bumgarner had to come out of his game. He's got this abductor spasm, which is it's in your like groin area. The injuries for Bumgarner are really starting to rack up. He's got that whole like rodeo thing where he was like riding bulls or something for a few years, and I feel like that really like took it out of his body. And these injuries just continue to stack up, and it stinks for obviously Arizona because you expected a lot. You're paying him 16, 17 million dollars a year. You at least want him on the field. And he hasn't looked great. He hasn't looked terrible. He's looked better than last year. So it's one of those things that hopefully it's not too bad for him, and let's just keep moving on. As we continue to talk about the Mets, Walker here has this left side issue. They don't think it's going to be too serious, but it's hard to say until you actually get back out there and pitch again. They say, oh, he's been dealing with it, but he's been dealing with it, and then he had to come out. So what are you going to get next time? The guy who can deal with it, or the guy that needs to come out? So it's hard to say here, right? So we'll have to see where this leads. He's not owned in a lot of leagues, which is good, but for the Mets, again, horrible news. That's going to be brutal. More bad news for this division. Max Fried came out of the game with a left hand cramp. Okay, they basically, he was already at like, yeah, it says here he's at 95 pitches already, and he had kind of gotten into a little bit of trouble there. So taking him out at that point in the game anyway made sense. But now it sounds like he actually came out and he was pulled out because of injury. watching part of that game, I didn't really realize that he had come out because of an injury. But yeah, left hand cramping is kind of a new one for me. I haven't really seen that one recently. Normally when there's things that are related to your arm, it's usually related to your elbow. So is hand cramping potentially going to lead to further bad things in your arm? I guess we're going to have to wait and see here. We will see what happens. I'm very curious and very interested to see what happens to Fried here. Logan Webb, he was spinning an absolute fantastic game against Cincinnati. Cincinnati looked brutal in this game. And then all of a sudden, Logan Webb has to come out with a sore right shoulder. That's not good. Like, shoulder is probably worse than elbow to some degree. Um, and the reason I say that is it's more long term. Like you could get Tommy John to fix your elbow. There is no Tommy John for your shoulder. So that's what I mean. I don't think that like this is going to be a career ender kind of a thing. But this sounds like it's. I don't like this. I think it's going to be serious. I think he's going to go on the DL, and I hope that we hear his name again this season. Is what I'm getting at. We already talked about Kevin Pilar a little bit. Got punked in the face. If you want to go watch that, I'm sure it's out there. Go watch it. I have actually yet to see it. I heard about it. I saw the kind of the blood everywhere. But if you want to go see that, go see it. I'm probably going to watch it right after this. I'm sure it was gruesome. He's going to be out. Hopefully he doesn't have a concussion. I think that's the big thing here. If he has a concussion, he's probably out for at least a week. If he doesn't, he could be back in a couple of days. But the bigger news is that the Mets have absolutely no outfield right now, which we already alluded to. Marco Gonzalez, they're trying. Okay, so he's got this forearm. On this channel, we always talk about how forearm leads to elbow, leads to Tommy John. But it sounds like they're going to give him a go. They're going to try, and they're going to have him throw. Personally, I still think that they're just delaying the inevitable. But we'll see what happens here as he continues. He threw 15 pitches. That sounds like progress, and it does sound like progress, and it is. But I think it's just a delay for what he's probably going to need to have happen. Even if he comes back, it's going to have to happen. Stanton goes on the DL. I think this was kind of expected that Stanton would go on the DL from time to time. They're calling this a quad. It's kind of like, yeah, lower body. Okay, that's all that fun stuff. I think he'll probably go on the DL 2-3 times this year. It's just the nature of him for some reason. He's a DH only, and yet he continues to get hurt. But to me, like, this is now just expected. Like, I expect Judge to go out. I expect Hicks to go out. I expect Stanton to go out. The Yankees have a lot of these guys that are very injury prone, so I think they're just going to be careful as they can. And when something kind of holds you back, they're going to put you on the DL, especially Stanton. So I don't expect him to be on for long. I expect him to come back whenever he's first available. He's been hitting pretty well, so that's good. Bad news here, we kind of alluded to this last week. It sounds like now managers and writers are talking about how they really don't expect Soroka back at all this year. This is kind of what we talked about on Friday. And I didn't either. It sucks for Atlanta, and I think that this keeps them out of the playoffs. With Soroka and Fried, I think you have a good chance of making the playoffs, even in that tough division. But with this kind of lingering, I think he's done. They have no idea what's wrong with his Achilles, and so moving on, because unfortunately, I think at this point, I wouldn't cut him yet. I actually own him, but I'm not cutting him just yet. Better news, I suppose, is that Syndergaard is now fully on rehab assignment, and which means he's going to start throwing more heavily here. They're looking at an early June return, which really, guys, is a month. No, it's not even a month away. Half a month away. So last week we talked about maybe it's time to add him. This week I'm saying I think you got to add him. If he's out there, I think you got to add him. Throw him on the IL list or the DL, whatever you got spots in your league. Just let him sit there for a little while, but when he comes back, he's got that ace potential. Drop Soroka at Syndergaard. Like, there it is. You just saw it right there. That's what you should do. Anyway, guys, don't want to go over 10 minutes. Try to make this quick. Try to get through as many names as we can. The Mets had a lot of bad news, but with Syndergaard coming back, that could be good news. Hopefully they get healthy. We'll see you next time.